Well, hello everybody. You're watching this video because you're part of our tribe, and I think there's a story that I needed to share with you. I wanted to share with you. It's kind of like an origin story of where RAD Diversified came from, kind of where it's going, what this history and background is. You know, when I first started doing real estate, it wasn't because, I thought I was going to become a multimillionaire or a billionaire from it. It kind of came out of necessity. I had been an executive recruiter. I had grown up super poor, but I finally was making money. I'd been a baseball coach, and I was finally making money. And I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't understand what to do with money. I mean, I had a year where I made more money than I probably had ever made in my whole life combined up to that point. I made $250,000. And you're talking about someone 12 months earlier had been a baseball coach, living indentured servitude, barely surviving in my young 20s, right out of school. And so I started doing real estate, and I kind of got into this situation where I was flipping houses. But the first journey is I spent a bunch of money on education, training, knowledge. There's all of these different gurus. Started with the Robert Kiyosaki commercial on PBS in the middle of the night, right? It's like 2 a.m. I was trying to figure out what to do. And so I started focusing on going to seminars and trainings. And so I started doing real estate, started making money, and started to build a little bit. But what's so frustrating with me is on the one hand, I would listen to the experts and the gurus, and on the other hand, there was so much information that was wrong. And so that's when I first started teaching real estate, as I started teaching it because I was so frustrated because there was so much wrong information, right? Like they would go and say, here's how you do a master lease option. I would go and do a master lease option, and that's not how it was done. They would say, here's how you wholesale a deal. Here's how you talk to a seller. Here's how you talk to a buyer. Here's how you analyze a commercial real estate deal. Here's how you make an offer on a commercial real estate deal. That you need a letter of intent, and then you need a proof of funds. I've never done a commercial deal in my life where I needed a proof of funds. That's BS, right? People don't carry $10 million sitting in a bank account. They get financing, and there's other ways that they show that they can invest and pay for a property. But over the years, I started to get to this point where I really wanted to share more and give more and do more. And so I started sharing content and information and knowledge and education and training. And then we started doing these seminars. And then we started doing these live auction experiences where our students would go to these auction trips, and we would look at deals, we would look at transactions, we would go and be able to buy deals and be able to make money. And I would buy deals at the auctions, and from time to time we'd have students buying deals at auctions, and I hired coaches to go and do trainings with students at auctions and do these trainings. And the problem was I would always come back from trips and say, how many people bought a deal? How many people made money? And I would see that not a bunch of students were buying deals and making money. And so I went on an auction trip, and said, I'm going to take this to another level. I took a staff, took people to do research, and I took people to run errands, and I just really was able, to focus. And we had these 20 students there on this live experience. They paid $5,000 each to go to it. And I was there, and they all had money. And their money ranged from $30,000 to one person had about $250,000 on them to go bid at the auction. And we analyze, we break it down, we get down to these deals, and nobody pulls the trigger. And these deals were under our max bids. They were 30-40% equity after repair value. I mean, really incredible deals. And nobody pulled the trigger. And afterwards, I said to everybody, well, why are we not pulling the trigger? And there was this fear factor. There was this thing for them that they were so afraid of, that they're so scared of. And they struggled with pulling the trigger. And they didn't fear of expectation, right? They didn't know, what if the property isn't what they thought it was? What if there's more rehab? What if they live in New York and the properties in Texas and they get stuck? And they said, Dutch, if you would just invest with us, if you would just partner with us, if you would just do it with us, we'd feel the confidence to go and do it. And I went back and I thought about this. And I talked to my business partners, Amy and Randall, and we discussed it. Talked to my wife about it, because I really didn't want the responsibility of investing other people's money. Even though that's what they started with from the very first Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? The very first, Robert Kiyosaki. But the challenge was it's a lot of responsibility. And it's one thing to take one person and do a hard money loan and do a rehab and fix and flip that's, a relative or someone that you know, but it's a whole nother thing to start taking strangers' money in and investing that. And after I came back, I said, okay, let's do this. And I didn't know how to do it in the beginning. I didn't know that I needed to start a private equity fund. I didn't know someday that would morph into RAD REIT. But I went and did it. and offered it out. And 21 out of those 22 people invested with us, and that were on that trip. And the 22nd one, 4 years later, invested with us, and his name's Ron Johnson. Ron Johnson's retired Secret Service, and he gave me a set of cufflinks I wear to this day from the Secret Service, and because of I honor him, right? But he watched us for a long time before he invested with us, which I always found fascinating. But over the last few weeks, I've talked to every one of our investors, and every single one of those people that invested that first trip with us, right, doubled their money in 3.5 years. Now, that was our first private equity fund, and that became DHI Holdings. And then 6 months later, I realized I could only have so many non-accredited investors. I had to open a second one. And then a year later, I opened a third one. And every single time, these people made money. And they continued to make money. And I knew that the only way I could continue to do this was to become what they call a Tier 2 A+ fund with the SEC, which is something complicated, but eventually that became RAD. Now, when we invest, there's a lot of things that we take into account, a lot of things that are important to us. But this all started off as a thought leader and expert sharing his gift with people, right? And being able to co-invest with them. But the cool part about this is I was able to start giving our education away, start giving our knowledge away, start giving our information away. So if people wanted to go do the tax lien, the tax deed business, the real estate business, whether it's wholesaling or flipping or subject twos, right? Or it's short sales, right? Because we're changing the world really quickly. A wholesaling and flipping world very quickly is going to become a subject to and short sale world. But as this world is adapting and changing, we have to change and adapt with the times as well. And so as an investment fund, we've been able to make double-digit returns during this COVID stuff that's going on. I don't want to get deep into the COVID stuff. There's lots of opinions on it. All I know is I have to move forward. I have to continue to do business. And so over the years, we had to build this team of people to work on it. What used to just be my funds, what used to just be my money, was now other people's money and other people's transactions. And so what I started to realize is as I did this is I had to add in an auditor, a third-party company to go through every single one of our books, and an appraiser to go through the analysis of every one of our deals so our people are getting the facts behind the numbers. And then I had to add in to the individual cities, I had to start adding in these project managers to manage and run all of the rehab projects, all of the properties, and all of the different things. And over the years, I've been able to add different people. The fascinating part is a lot of the people that came to work with us weren't just the guy off the streets that I found to do the work. They were people who were students, people that were invested in a different way, and that made our profits better. Because when you have someone who's invested just beyond their job, when it's more important to them than just a job, now suddenly everything is better. And so over the years, we had these people that just kept joining the team. And then more money would come in, and then we'd keep investing and turning deals and turning transactions. And so, I share this story because, a humble kid from Iowa who grew up poor, my parents were alcoholics. A lot of you know this. You're part of our tribe. My parents were alcoholics. They lived on my own at 16. I remember my mom was a real estate agent. I remember going to houses and showings when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I remember at like 12 years old having to drive a car home one time because my mom, couldn't show the house the way she needed to. And I'm not going to get deeper into that. But what I'm saying is then I went to college and played baseball, and then went and became a baseball coach. And so what I'm talking about is I didn't come from a place of New York City or Wall Street or building this. Is as I figured out something very, very simple to us, right? Which is find a box, a real estate box, and that is beaten up, that is damaged. Repair it, fix it, make it better, make it worth more, and then rent it out. And then rather than getting complicated and saying, hey, I'm going to go find this 200 acres of land and do a piece of development and guess on what's going to happen, we just decided to repeat the process over and over and over. And so as we did this business, we started to learn more and become more advanced, and we started to hire people like economists to help us understand where the future was, what cities we should be in, what markets we should be in. And we started to analyze neighborhoods, which is a part of our diamond method that you guys have heard about if you're a part of our tribe. And so that we could say, which neighborhoods are going to grow the fastest in a city, right? We started saying which cities are on the cutting edge of what's going on, which ones have a big enough scale where we can buy 1,000 houses in that city. And we began to continue to process and continue to get better and continue to move. And so we started preparing our business, though, for what's going on right now economically a long, long time ago. My business partner, Randall, after the '08 crash, said to me, Dutch, we have to build a business that expands during economic times, that grows during economic times. And I said, well, what's always going to exist in America? What are the factors that are always going to exist in America? That's another part of the method is what's always going to exist? Well, there's always going to be people who pass away and die. And certain times, like now, there's more. There's always going to be mental illness. There's always going to be addiction. There's always going to be divorce. There's always going to be bankruptcy and difficult financial times. So what is a business that doesn't ever treat on the woes of other people, right? But what is a business that we can do that wins from these bad situations? And that's when we began the tax lien and tax deed business, because when the government, you don't pay your taxes, the government goes ahead and either puts a lien or it forecloses on the property. And so that became something we found was a complicated business that we could start to buy and win in. And so that's where we started to see this advantage, and started to see how our method works so much. And we do videos more on the methodology behind this, but this became a business that I found over the years is just continued to stack and continued to grow and continue to expand. Where I see so many businesses struggling, we're growing. We've raised more money in the last few months than we had raised in the previous 2 years. And I think a lot of it is just our investors are just doubling down with us. People that lost money in the stock market have just reinvested with us because, our stock is one that is not on the stock market. It's a non-traded stock. And so we don't allow it to be affected by consumer opinion or whether China or the president does something and all of that stuff. I'm not political. I'm just saying I want to know what's going to happen. Like I've built in plans. If we end up having a Democratic administration in November, I've already built plans for that. If we have a Republican administration, I've already built plans for that, where we're taking the business. The next 6 months, real estate's going to go like this, nice and steady, and there's going to take a little dip, right? And then it's going to go up with hyperinflation because the government's shoving massive amounts of money into the country. I think we're only a third to a half of the way the money they're going to put into the market. And then you take it a step even further, the stock market coming back is going to put a lot of money into the market. And then you take it even a step further with 0% Fed rate. Nobody going into an election this next year is going to want to raise the rates and even affect the economy more. So these are all just the amazing happenings of where we are. So in this world right now, it's like a perfect storm for us. Now, I don't say that to say, like, I have to be careful what I say because people will judge us in the sense that we're winning in this economic situation. But at the same time, I built my business to win in a downturn. I didn't build my business to take advantage or to hurt somebody. Like we help our people. We help the properties we buy when somebody's lost them. We give them, cash to move on in their lives. We'll let them buy back from us. We'll let them rent back from us. We'll do a lot of different things. But we take something very simple and do it over and over and over and over and over and over. And this is the magic behind our business. And people say, well, why don't I just go and do real estate myself? And I encourage you. Go do real estate yourself. I applaud you for that. I would love for you to be able to do that. But I will tell you that what you see on TV isn't what the reality is. They won't tell you about permitting, holding up a rehab project for 6 months. They won't tell you about a contractor stealing your money and walking away. What they'll tell you about is this perfect, picture of how they do deals and how they do rehabs. For us, if one deal goes wrong, it doesn't affect the whole. When we have 1,000 houses, it doesn't affect the whole, right? We can manage through problems. For someone else, when one deal goes wrong or one project goes really wrong, it can affect your entire savings. And so for us, we're investing in giving you the returns, right? Our fund works as an 80-20 split where you make 80% of the profits, we make 20% of it. We think that's a fair trade when you're making money. Last year we did a 44% annualized return after our share of the profits. Our investors made a 44% annualized return. Think about that. Where else do you get that? This year we have a 5% guarantee. So, I share all this with you so that you know where we come from and who we are and what we're doing and where this fund was started. How we've built this thing up a staircase, step by step, for years and years and years and continue to get better. And the most important thing to us ever over these years is how we do it, how we approach it, and that we do it the right way. And we know the right way is going to continue to add to our cash flow, continue to add to our investments. This is so important to us because our investors know that they're taken care of. They know that we're in it for them, being the largest investor in our funds. I know that anytime I invest in a property, I'm putting my money at risk, just like I'm investing your money for the future. And so, we've established a system where people can have our cash flow, right? You can invest with us and get monthly checks. You can invest with us and get a guaranteed return that we have every single year. And so these are the things that we're doing for you. So whatever part of our community, what part of our process you're in right now, I encourage you to take the next step, whether that's scheduling a booking appointment with our team, if that's going and watching some of our value videos, so you can get to know us and understand us better. This is what I know, is that RAD Diversified was built by an incredible group of people. And that's my business partners, that's our staff, that's our team, that's our students over there who've learned from us and joined the team. RAD Diversified has made double-digit returns during good times, and we made even better returns during the last 6 months. And so as you invest with us, I want to be there with you every step of the way. We're always open to answering every question, anything that you want to know. We believe in 100% transparency. We share with you about our deals, our transactions. Even if something were to ever go wrong, we share it with you immediately. One time, a few years ago, we had a house stolen from us. Someone fraudulently stole a property from us and forged a deed. We told our investors about it immediately. Did it affect our returns? No, not very much, because we got it back. And we actually were able to, in a settlement, be able to make some money from the situation. But at the same time, when it first happened, it's like, oh my gosh, what just happened? So we knew what to do. We know how we're going to do this going forward. I welcome you on the journey with us, and I'm glad you're a part of this with us. So go ahead and take the next step that you need to take, which is booking a consultant. Go ahead and take the time to spend some time with one of our team and get the answers that you need for yourself. We'll see you on the very next side.